welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Katie, I'm a mixed media sketchbook artist, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing quite a big haul with some art supplies I've picked up since the start of the year. Some of the art supplies came from Jackson's Art when they had a little Royal Talens sale. I've also got some items from my husband who went to Austria in January, so quite a few things to share and I'm excited to show you, so let's jump right in. So I've got my A4 sketchbook ready to swatch into, but we're going to start with Greyish. So my husband works in Vienna a lot and he has been there most of January. So I did ask him to pop into the art store, which is in central Vienna, and he very kindly picked up a few things from my list and also a few extras. So I went to this art shop when I was in Vienna myself in November. I will leave a link to the vlog where I shared my hauls from that solo art trip up here in the cards. But I did ask for a couple of acrylic markers, some Faber, Castell, Albrecht, Dürer watercolour markers too. I've got the receipt so I can tell you the prices, but I definitely found that it was cheaper for him to get it over there. I compared some of the prices for what I could get over here and it was definitely much cheaper in Vienna. So if I go back there, I'm definitely going to try and stock up on anything that I want. But let's start with this one. So I asked for this Edding acrylic marker. He got it in the duo liner tip, so it's called the Acrylic 3D double liner. I haven't tried it like this before. I do have quite a few acrylic markers, but they're usually just like the one end. But I asked for this one because I thought it was a really lovely colour. This is in the shade Mellow Mint, so 928 Mellow Mint, and we've got a 2 to 3mm end this side and a 5 to 10mm end that side. I haven't used Edding before, but it seems to be a really popular brand in Europe. We don't really see it over here though in the UK. I haven't found anywhere to get Edding. I feel like I'm going to rip the whole thing off when I take off the lid. There we go, okay. Ooh, okay. This is very different to what I thought it would be, because it is a like duo liner, I suppose. So this will be very different to my other markers, which usually have a nib, so you'll see it on this one. But this doesn't actually have a nib at all. It kind of just has a plastic bit with paint that can come out the top, and then a smaller one on this side. So let's try swatching this in my sketchbook. So I've just got a blank page here. Actually, I think this is the last spread in my sketchbook that's empty. So this is very different. Okay. So it comes out really, really thick, but then do I use that to smush it about? But that's just plastic. I'm used to having like the brush nibs because I feel like I'll put it down and then I'll need a brush to kind of smush it about, which kind of defeats the point. Let's just grab a brush. It is a really nice colour though. It's not quite as green as I thought. I would say that actually doesn't look like it does in the tube. It's much more blue. I thought this would be more of a pastel mint. So I think ideally I would have it in the other nib, but I think this is all he could get. So it's good to try out the colour, that's for sure. Let me try the other end. So this is the 2 to 3mm end, you can see. I wonder what these are actually used for. It says canvas, so I guess it's for like writing on the canvas, but there's a lot of air in here, so it's not very smooth coming out. So again, I don't have anything on this pen to smush it with, so I'd have to come in with a brush. I feel like the texture's really nice. Obviously it's acrylic paint, but yeah, not quite the colour I was expecting. To me, it's not as green as I wanted. It feels like it would just be this one. So let's talk about this one, which he also got me. This is the acrylic marker with the brush nib, so like the foam end, which I'm more used to. This is 5 to 10mm. I asked him to see if this one was any good because this is a pastel blue. It's not quite as pastel as I thought, so I'm always trying to find a nice sky sort of blue, which is why I ended up mixing my own Montana. But I'm interested to see how dark this is. I always find swatching helpful with these things because, again, to me that is a different colour to what's on the actual barrel. And these ones you have to like pump it through, so you have to fill this. So you give it a good shake and then you pump it through. So let's do that to get the colour through to the end. It's taking quite a while. If you are interested in acrylic markers and learning more about them, I do have a video comparing different brands. Again, I'll link that up in the cards and down below. But I'm going to keep trying with this. It's definitely taking a lot longer than some of the other ones I have. Okay, here we go. So this is how I usually use my acrylic markers. I love it because you then don't have to have a brush. That's a really nice blue. It's definitely similar to the blue on the barrel. Probably not quite as pastel as I'd want, but I feel like that will be really useful anyway. And I think I can layer on like a white Tania colour on top just to tone it back. But that's a really nice consistency. It's coming out nice and matte. It's coming out, it's not glossy at all. So really happy with that. I wish this one had this nib, but very helpful to see. And also you can see the difference here. So compared to a blue, this does look more green, but it's just not quite the colour that I thought it would be. So let me just update with the prices. This Edding acrylic 3D double liner, really I should have realised because it's 3D, so I think it's supposed to go on the canvas thick. You're not really supposed to smush it down like that, I suppose, because it doesn't have that brush end. But this one, which is mild mint, was €6.65. And then this Edding acrylic marker was €4.93. So a pretty good price for acrylic markers, I'd say. Let's move on to the next two pens, which are these two Faber Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolour markers. I asked for both of these, so we've got them in the Warm Grey 3272 and the Ultramarine 120. This is probably one of my favourite blues. I was interested to see how the shade looks because to me it reminds me of the Neocolor blue that I love and use all the time. Okay, it's not quite the same. It doesn't have that purple tint. Again, I think it's not very accurate to the barrel. This definitely feels a bit more periwinkle. This one's definitely more blue toned, but it does dry a little bit more purple. It goes down bluer, which is interesting. I do find that interesting how it dries. I think it definitely has more of a purple tone, but it's not quite as light as the barrel. These are really nice. They don't dry instantly, so you can smudge them like that, which I think is really helpful. And that's just a really nice blue, not quite as purple toned as I expected. And then the other one is a warm grey, which I use neutrals all the time in my work, so I find these really helpful. That's really nice. I think that's like a cross between a grey and a beige. Still as wet as the other one, so I think that's really good for smushing about on the page. So really happy with these. I'm slowly building my collection. I now have 5 of these. Price-wise, these were €3.52 each. Definitely a lot cheaper than we can get here in the UK. And then the other thing he picked up from Gershtake, because he saw these, he wasn't sure if I had any of these. I do have a few water brushes, but not this size. These are a lot shorter than I've seen, which is cool to see because I think they'll fit better in a pencil case. These are the other ones I've got, so you can see they're kind of like a half size. He got these because they say I love art on them, which is true, I do. And yeah, you just fill them with water. So I think these are really helpful for when you are working outside, doing plein air art, just to not have to worry about taking a little bowl and then extra water as well. There are a few different sizes in here. We've got a fine, a really thick one, and then a medium. So I think these will be really helpful, and I definitely want to do more plein air art this summer. Okay, so that was the Gershtake haul. I also bought myself some of these brushes. These are from Artway. They're a brand I discovered when I was visiting an art shop in Winchester last summer, and I've been really interested in trying mop brushes. So I saw these, I thought they were a really good price for 3. I'll put that on the screen because I don't have it in front of me. But they come in this little pouch, and then I've got 3 here for that price, which I think is a really good value. So if you've followed my channel for a long time, you'll know that I almost exclusively use round brushes, especially the size 10. So that's the one I grabbed when I was smishing this around. This is my favourite brush that I use because I can get really broad marks and also it tapers off. So this is my first time using these mop brushes or having them in my collection. I really like the look of them. I think they look really smart. I definitely think they look more expensive than they were. So I've got the size 8, which is really chunky. size 5 and then a thinner size 2, but I think these are going to be really interesting. I'm going to soak them just to loosen the bristles, and then I'll use these with some watercolour because I think that will be really helpful to see how it holds the water. I've just grabbed this Kuretake Gansai Tambi set, which I got for my birthday last summer. I can't compare these to more expensive mop brushes because I haven't used them. Oh, that's really nice. So I can get really thin lines. I can also get a lot of pigment down on the page, and I think that will be really good for texture as well. So I'm excited to use these brushes. Let's just use the smaller one as well. I think these are a really good size for me. They just feel really nice. They're not super heavy, they are quite light. But again, I can get that variation of line that I can do on my round brushes, but I think these hold a lot more water. So really excited to use these more in my work. I really like these. So next up is this, and if you've not seen these before, you might be very confused as to why this is an art supply. But this is a jelly plate that Mitch bought me for Christmas. February on my Patreon is texture month, so I'm really excited to use this for that and just explore how I can use it. But basically it's used to create textures and it's for printmaking. Now these have been around for years, but I feel like it's had a bit of a resurgence lately, certainly in the circles that I follow in art. So I've seen Omar Wynne and Emma Carlisle use these. But basically you put down acrylic paints. You can use a brayer to get down your layers, and you can also use magazines for printmaking, put text on. It's really good for layering up and then creating texture and layers in your work. So I want to experiment with textures in my sketchbooks, so I think this will be really good for laying down. It's really different material to what I expected. I thought it would be harder, but it's basically like a really wobbly jelly plate. It does feel like jelly. It's very soft and malleable. I'm an absolute novice. I've never used this before, but I'm really interested in the textures that it can create. So if you want to see more of this, let me know in the comments, because I know that there are a lot of people who create with this, but not necessarily in sketchbooks. So I'm really excited to play around with this, especially for Texture Month over on my Patreon. Okay, and now back to something which we'll all be a bit more familiar with, and that is Jackson's art box, which is filled with acrylic paint for my jelly paint printing and also some pencils. So let's open this up and I'll show you what I bought. There's like a lucky dip box in there. So I've got 3 of these little boxes and this one. So I think this might be the acrylic medium. Let's open it up. So like I said, most of this haul is to be used with that jelly plate. I wanted a few more acrylics to layer it on. And this is also for that. So this is a matte medium. You basically can put down your textures on there, and then if you don't want a solid background colour for your print, you can use this, which is matte medium and is completely clear. So I think this will be really interesting for playing around with my prints. So it dries fast, it's water resistant for traditional acrylic techniques. I think sometimes people use this for finishing their work, so to add this as their final layer, so then it's completely covered, it won't get like water damage or anything like that because it is water resistant. So it's used for adding translucency, so you can mix this into acrylic paint as well. So if you've got gloss paint, you can make it matte, so you can add it to the paint in any ratio to achieve the desired consistency. So maybe it's not used as a final layer, perhaps it's just used for mixing into paint. Again, I've never used this before, which is why I bought this bottle. I want to test using this on my jelly plate. Now let's open up some of these. I did buy quite a few tubes. Okay, so here are the acrylics that I bought. They had an offer on all Royal Talens products. So Amsterdam acrylic paint is a Royal Talens product. You can see that there. And I haven't ever used Amsterdam before, but I do see a lot of the jelly plate makers on YouTube use these, and I wanted to build up my collection. I do have some Daler Rowney graduate acrylics, but I thought it would be easier to get the colours that I want to test out with. And I really like this palette. I got a couple of neutrals. So this one is Titanium Buff Light. So when I don't want to use white, I think that will add a really nice warmth. This one is Naples Yellow Green. Again, I've seen people use this and I really like the effect. I also got some bolder colours. This one is olive green light. It's definitely more green than I thought. I wouldn't say it was very olive, but I think I'll be able to mix that with some of the others and tone it down, especially with this blue. This is the greyish blue. I really like this colour. That's a really lovely shade. And then I went for this pop of pink, which is Venetian rose. I feel like as a palette, these work really nicely. I don't know if I'll use them all together, but I think that they'll be really interesting to play with. So to show you the swatches, I'll pop that onto the sketchbook as well. So I'm just going to take off this tape. I do find that Jackson's art does package really nicely, and I've never had any leaks, which is good. So those are all of our paints swatched out. They swatch really nicely. I think that, like I said, they're used for printmaking because they're really nice consistency. They're not super thick. I really like how they look all together. So we've got the olive green. Again, it's probably a bit too luminous and neon for me, so I'd like to see if I can mix in maybe an ochre or this blue, just to tone it down a bit. This one I wouldn't say is a greyish blue. I'd say it's more of a blue with a touch of lavender maybe. I wouldn't say there's any grey tone really in there. The Venetian rose, really lovely pink. It reminds me a lot of the anthraquinoid pink from Luminance pencils. Then we've got the Naples yellow green. It's kind of like a beige, definitely does have that green tone compared to this one, which has more of a red tone. So this one is titanium buff light. So I can really see the difference there. But as a colour palette, I really like these all together. I don't know if I would use them all together, but I really like seeing them like that. And I know that I can use them with my printmaking and they'll all work. So I'm excited to play around with those, and yeah, really happy with that. Like I said, I did get them from Jackson's on their Royal Talens product sale. So each of these 120ml acrylic tubes were £4.42 each, which I think is really good and really helpful to build up your collection when there is a sale on, and really excited to try these out with my jelly plate. Okay, and then last up in my Jackson's order were some pencils and also an odd Ecoline brush pen. So I really enjoy using these Ecoline brush pens, and this is 420 Beige. It's a colour I don't have. You can see my collection here in this pot. I have the 374, which is pink beige, but I wanted to test out the other beige as well. So I'm just going to swatch that here. Actually, it's quite similar to this shade, which is the titanium buff. But obviously it's an Ecoline brush pen. Again, it's quite juicy, so I can mix it up. It does remind me a bit of the Albrecht Dürer, but it's a little bit less juicy, I'd say. I think I'll use this all the time. I'm always looking for nice neutrals in my work. This Ecoline brush pen, obviously that was also in the Royal Talens sale, so that was £2.38. And then last up is some pencils. So when I shared my comparing coloured pencil video, again, I'll link that up there in the cards. A lot of you said that I would enjoy the Derwent Lightfast, so I just got two to test out. I have never used these before, you can see them here. I mostly use my Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. I've also got a couple of Derwent drawing pencils. But Lightfast isn't something I've used before, so I'm interested to see how they lay. I can see that the wood is quite rough. I don't know what this lead is made of, so I'm interested to see how they feel compared to my beloved Luminance. Okay, so they're not as soft. Maybe they compare better to the Faber Castell. I don't think they'll wear down as quickly as Luminance, which is really good. That's a really nice blue. I wouldn't say it was ultramarine, I'd say it's more of a really light, almost a cobalt blue, but perhaps not that light. So maybe a mid cobalt blue. And then this one is Foliage. I just wanted to get a green. Well, that's a really nice shade. This one actually feels a little bit softer and a bit more buttery than that blue. So I guess that depends on the pigments. I can get a really nice thick line there. So compared to this one actually feels like it goes down smoother, which is interesting because it's the exact same brand. But I can definitely see how vibrant they are. I think that they layer really nicely. So I'm just putting that over the acrylic paint I've put down at the top there. I can definitely see myself using these, especially mixed in with some of my other brands. I'm not going to go out and buy a whole new collection of Lightfast because I have so many coloured pencils, including that huge Faber Castell set. So for me, I have plenty of pencils, but it's always nice to try some out and get a few different colours. If you have got specific colours you think I'd like in the Lightfast, please do let me know. Because yeah, these do feel really nice. I can definitely see me reaching for these all the time. I really like these colours. They just feel like a nice pencil. They're not super hard, so that's really good for me. So quite a mixed haul today. I'm really excited to use all these things. Excited to try the acrylics with the gel plate, and then also have a few more colours in the Albrecht Dürers, try out the Lightfast pencils, and then a few other acrylic markers as well. I think all of these will get a lot of use, except maybe this one. I think I'm going to have fun exploring all of these. Really like those brushes as well. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. I'm excited to share the art I create with all of this with you, and I'd love to know what you think down below in the comments. If I've missed anything out, please do let me know. But otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you next Sunday in my new YouTube video. See you later.